Okay, folks, I talked a little bit about the basic principles of unity, variety, and design, and I developed this kind of little module to show you that by actually moving stuff around on a format, and I'll start by doing that today. Some really kind of basic principles. So I've cut out some shapes, basically out of the poster board you guys will be using, and I'm going to arrange them on this piece of paper, which could be called a format. And I'll just go through a few of the principles today, and you can see what they actually look like. So the first two I'm going to talk about, the two kind of basic divisions in design of arranging things, symmetry, asymmetry. And I'll use these little rectangles here. So if I take a bunch of them and I put them, let's say in an arrangement like this, this could be considered a symmetrical arrangement, because if I divide this format vertically and horizontally, basically one side or the other is going to equal the other, or they're mirror images of the other. So symmetrical arrangements are very safe, but they're also kind of boring because they're predictable. So if you want to add a little dynamism or a dynamic to your design, you can create asymmetrical designs, and that's very simple. Asymmetry just simply means that one side no longer equals the other. And I could do it with this arrangement just by doing this. So now the top and bottom do not equal one another, and left and right sides don't equal one another as well. So those are two basic divisions. They're neither good nor bad. It depends on what you want to do, for a particular design or whatever you want to try to achieve. So I'll go through some of the principles of unity today, just really quickly, really briefly, and then later on I'll show you examples of all of this. So one of the ways to create unity in design is by using things that are similar. And so if I take these, and I'm just going to kind of throw them on the format in more or less a random fashion, there isn't really any strong principle of design here, but there is similarity. And why are they similar? Well, basically they're all triangles. So now if I wanted to create repetition, which is also kind of related to similarity, I'll use these rectangles again. So I've got 7 pieces here, I guess 7. Now, they're all similar, of course, but if I want to create the aspect of repetition, I might do something like this. This is a very common principle in design. So I have things that are all similar, of course, but now they repeat themselves in some kind of predictable fashion. And if I were to take one of these out and give it to one of your students and ask you, replace the missing part here, by virtue of this repetition, you'd know pretty much exactly where it's supposed to go. So similarity, repetition can kind of work together in some aspects. Another principle of unity is this thing called proximity. And proximity also very, very commonly used in artwork design of all courses. Proximity just simply means that you're putting things together in some form or fashion. So I'm actually going to use a bunch of things that are different here. So I've got a bunch of kind of random shapes here. There isn't any particular order. So how do I create order and some aspect of unified design here? Well, proximity just simply means moving them together. So, and of course there's 100 million ways you can do this. So now I've taken these 10 or however many shapes are here, and simply by pushing them close together, now they act as a unit. In fact, there's some things you can push them so close together that they sort of lose their individual identity as shapes and become like a single shape. So proximity is another, obviously you can do this in many different ways as well, but proximity is another way to create unity in the design. Let me show you the principle of continuation now. In continuation, everybody kind of knows what continuation is because when you read, you know, one word follows another, a sentence follows the other, and you do that same thing with design. So I'm going to use a bunch of different shapes again here. Continuation just simply means that there's some element or group of elements in the design that lead your eye from one thing to another. And so if I use these, and throw in one more. So if I make an arrangement that might look something like this. This out of here. So now if I use these 10 or however many shapes are here, when you look at this, your eye is just basically going to travel from one thing to another. And it can be things that actually point direction or things that just simply lead you from one particular shape to another. You can also use continuation in this aspect. And sometimes it doesn't have to be as direct as this. You could do something like in a design like this, even though I don't have a bunch of interconnected shapes now, because the fact that this triangle actually kind of points a direction, lines do the same thing, your eye will automatically go from here to here. And that's an easy way to draw attention to something in a design. So continuation, you can think of it as just kind of traveling, your eye traveling through the design. Can be by a strong image, could be by color, could be by value, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just to finish up today, I'll show you one more thing, and it's a particular strategy design called progressive rhythm. Now I'm just going to use these rectangles again. So I've got these 7 shapes here, again, similar, repeating, but with progressive rhythm, you actually change some things, but you change them so that visually they do their alteration in a predictable way. So I'll just try something that's really simple. I start up in the corner here and start doing this. And I leave one out again. You know that it's moving through the format in a predictable fashion. So if I asked you to finish the design, you'd probably know to put this down here somewhere. And you can do this in a number of different ways. You could, for example, add a different shape. Let me take some of these out of here. Put this, let me find a better one. This. And if I asked you to put in the 4th circular design, you essentially, by visual intuition, you would know exactly what that shape is going to be. And it would be something like this. So progressive rhythm is a kind of change in a way, but it's a predictable change. So it can change in really kind of simplified patterns, or it can be much more complicated. You can combine things, it could be singular things like this, and so on and so forth. So anyway, those are some of the basic aspects of how you create unity in a design, but as you can probably guess in design, there's 100 million ways to do this, from things that are relatively simple to things that are extremely complicated. Thanks for coming. Stop by again.